Howdy, howdy. I wanted to share with you guys my eBay sales for April, and we'll just jump right in there and get started. First, I sold this Fashion Fair cleansing cream for $29.99 plus shipping. Almost always, whatever price I tell you, I charged shipping in addition to what I sold it for. Next, I sold this group of 12 baseball books. Those were in the estate buyout that my husband and I bought last summer that had over 30 moving box size boxes full of books. Next, I sold this group of vintage Maybelline eye products for $19.99. I sold these two brand new bottles of probiotics for $74.99. Those were given to us by a coworker of my husband's, with the intent that she knew I'm a reseller. Another Fashion Fair. This was a foundation in the shade of Honey Amber. Fashion Fair is a brand for women of color. Then you could do a choice, and they bought this nail polish in the shade of Plum Suede for $9.99. And you'll see through here that there's a lot of repeat buyers. Next, I sold this Avon blush from $19.96 in the shade of Candlelit Rose. And then I have literally several hundred of these Coty lipsticks that are still new in package. And I sold two of them in the shade of Freshest Peach for a total of $19.98, plus shipping, of course, like I said. And then the Freshest Peach has been my most popular of the shades. And I have, I think, about 12 to 15 different shades. And then this next one, it's a very rare negative feedback that I got. This was a rare version of this made in France in a glass bottle. Very hard to come by this exact version, and I did research before I priced it. But then when they got it, they didn't contact me. They just left a negative feedback and said it was too pricey for the amount of shampoo. And I had put the volume in the title, in the description, and where it asks for the volume, I had put it there. I had been very clear what size it was, and I just wish they would have contacted me, and I tried to have contact with them to get them to change that feedback, and they would not. The good news is the way eBay does it now, a negative feedback only stays in your percentage for a year. So that's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But basically, they didn't read the listing and they bought something that they didn't want, and they blamed me for it and were not willing to work with it. And had they contacted me, even though it was their mistake, had they contacted me, I would have gladly worked with them and given them a refund, but they had already given me the negative feedback and weren't willing to work on it or do something about it. So that happens sometimes. Next, this was a rare shade of lipstick, Max Factor Sun Bronze for $39.99. And if it sounds like I'm being callous, I just used to really let that bother me. I've only a handful of times in the over 20 years I've been selling gotten a negative feedback, and I used to just really, really let it bother me. And I don't anymore, because the only time I've ever gotten a negative feedback is when they didn't give me a chance. Because anytime someone's contacted me, if there was an issue, I always made it right. So that's why I just decided to move on and not let it bother me too much. Next, to a repeat buyer, I sold this Sally Hansen Hard as Nails nail polish in the shade of Amorous Amethyst Cream for $9.99. Obsession is the shade for this Wet n Wild nail polish for $9.99. This Crystal Violet is a really sought after shade, and I have sold several tubes of this. This is a repeat buyer, $39.99. I have several cases of these box of 3 Q-Tex nail polish, and I sold this box in the shade of Mink for $19.99. This Max Factor foundation, $24.99. This next product was in one of the storage units that we bought out, and it was a case, and it was for $59.99. Another repeat buyer, 2 of the blushes, Dream Pink and Just Rosy, for a total of $49.98. You guys who've watched my other videos know that I had about 30 of this Pure Ice nail polish, and it was the black lid bottle that's the beautiful frosted glass and really sought after. And I sold this one in the shade of Stardust for $49.99. Another Avon product. This was a color rich lipstick in the shade of Starring for $24.99. And you're going to see here in a minute that I also sold some men's fragrance from Avon that was also called Starring. Then another Max Factor foundation for $19.99. I sold just one tube of this L'Oreal two-tone lipstick, really cool, black and white, and I'd had someone messaging me about it, and I ended up taking an offer of $8.51 for that. Elizabeth Arden foundation, $9.99. I'm pretty sure that this Pocket Bible was in that estate buyout. Sold that for $12.99. This was the little mini colognes that Avon put out in the 1990s with several of the throwback men's fragrances. And this one was the shade of Everest from 1975. Then in one of the storage units that we bought out last spring, there were 2 of the Whimsical World of Pocket Dragons. And these are kind of a resin figure. And I had already sold one of them. And this one had been listed for a while. And I did an offer of $9.59 and sold that. This pair I had gone down on because it had been listed for a while. And that sound you're hearing in the background is my husband working on a car. And I'd gone down on the price on this Wet n Wild Speed Zone nail color and sold the pair for $8.99. I sold these 3 Maybelline clear nail enamel for $11.99. This one was a choice, and they sold the one on the right in the color of Ice Blue Pink for $11.99. Then this one I sold to someone within my state. They had contacted me that this had been their favorite shade and how excited they were that her husband had actually found this, and she was so excited. And she had offered me $20, and I countered with $25. I was asking $40, I believe, for it. And anyway, she bought this, and you can't tell it in this photo, but in some of the other photos, and I had very well described it too, that this had tip damage, where someone had opened it to look at it and damaged it with the lid. But anyway, I have since found another of this shade in excellent condition. I've listed it, and we'll see what will happen. Then, excuse me, I believe this was my last 2 Pure Ice that I have, unless I come across some others. The one on the right, the Sand Dollar, I had listed for a long time, and I had even gone down on it, and for some reason it just wasn't selling. So I decided to put the pair together and move these along, and it sold for $49.99. Sold another of the Crystal Violet Max Factor for $49.99. A pair of the Prestige Concealer for $19.99. Another Avon lipstick in the shade of Nude for $19.99. And then you guys who have followed along and watched my videos know that, oh gosh, it was probably getting close to 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half ago. I had gone through and sorted, and I believe it was 166 bottles of this Revlon streetwear nail polish from like the 1990s and Y2K. And I at first started listing them for $40 a bottle and sold some of the more sought after shades for that. And then through time, I've gone down on the price, and now I'm down to just a few bottles left. And I listed some in groups. And this person bought several bottles for $149.98. I believe all of the cosmetics and nail polishes, etc., that I have today came from the climate controlled storage unit that we bought out in Dallas area. That was someone's business that they were selling, that was just full of these lovely vintage cosmetics, and I am still working my way through it, and as I have time, getting more listed. This next one, this Revlon compact, I had this listed for a while and it just wasn't selling, so I went down. Here's another of the Fashion Fair products, repeat buyer, Berry Spice blush for $19.99, and there's that Starring men's cologne that I mentioned. I sold 2 bottles of it for $49.99. Then these next 4 books are like homeschooling, early reading books that I sold the group for $29.99. Then this was in one of the climate controlled storage units that we bought last spring. There's evidently a whole series of these Flatsy mini dolls. They're literally flat and they're little tiny. And this one was Flatsy Grace, and the package had been damaged and even come open, and so it was missing 2 of the accessories, but the doll and the accessories that were remaining are in just perfect condition, and I ended up accepting an offer for that and selling it. And then my last item that I sold it in April and mailed it May 1st, was a pair of this Avon Twig, the shade of Twig lipsticks. Sold 2 of them for $39.98. I had 20 to 25 tubes of these, and I've sold several over the last few months, and it's a very popular shade from days gone by. So that's my sales for April. You guys have a great day, and I'm now several days into May, and my sales are going well, and I'm sure the end of the month, if not sooner, I'll share my next sales. All right, thanks guys. Have a great day.